you can see
It's a question about...
about this.
Yes.
You're quick off the mark. Fire away, Nicholas.
Is it possible to get contaminated by some other person's feelings?
By some other person.
Other person's feelings, if they're really feeling really bad and possessed, and can it affect me in a bad way? In New Age, you talk about protection when you're like a therapist and work with really sick people, and you should have stones and crystals. And
in the New Age philosophy, there is a lot of emphasis on protecting yourself. And protecting yourself from negative energy, from negative vibrations, from negative spirits, from negative entities, sometimes they're called. And this focus on protection is all about fear. It's all about the fears we have. The reality is that I cannot infect you with an emotion unless the emotional openness to such infection already exists within you. So if I start talking about something that makes you afraid, I'm not afraid about talking about it, but it might make you afraid. You could then claim that, I'm infecting you emotionally with my fear. But it's not my fear, I'm not afraid. There's a fear in yourself. So what happens is that if you think of your soul, and I'll draw you as a person, here's yourself. Inside of every single person, there are addictions, which I would classify as a desire for somebody else to help you with an emotion or a feeling or a sensation. There's also some pure love at times. Sometimes it doesn't feel like there's much with us, other times it feels like there's a lot. There's also fear within us. There's also anger. There's also, at the same time, kindness, compassion, right? In other words, a group of emotions. There's also desires. I view desires as pure feelings, not addictions. So a lot of times, many of us view our addictions as our desires. But I see desire as having harmony with love and truth. If it's harmonious with love and truth, I see it as a pure desire. If it's not harmonious with love and truth, I see it as an addiction. Does that make sense? But you can see all these things exist within us. There's many more things, of course, too. We have personality. We also have a set of experiences. Does that make sense? But just so many things exist within us concurrently. They're all at the same time. Now, here's another person. This is me walking around carrying my baggage, which is all this baggage. Some of the baggage is nice and light, and when other people experience it, they go, oh, it's wonderful. And other baggage is dark and negative, and when other people experience that, there's this feeling of, oh, it's dark and negative. But how can these feelings infect another person unless there is an openness to receiving the feeling? There has to be an openness. Now, in New Age circles, what people do is they try to protect themselves, almost like putting a force field barrier around yourself, so that you're sort of living in a cocoon and you don't have to experience these emotions. Right? And some also enlist the help of spirits, people in the spirit world, to place barriers around them as well. Some even think that they can pray to God to pay for this barrier around them. And I'm telling you that such thing is an impossibility, because God created this system. Do you think he's going to protect you from it if he created it? It's not logical to believe that. But many do believe it because they have spirits masquerading as God, interacting with them. There are many spirits in the spirit world who believe themselves to be God, in fact. And they masquerade as God. So when you ask for God to protect you, and all of a sudden this wonderful protection comes, oh, God's protecting me is the feeling, when it's just a spirit doing what you want in the moment. And why would they do that? Probably because they want something in the same moment. That's usually the case. So we have spirit protection, we have our own barriers and so forth to openness. My suggestion is, if you really want to do things God's way, we need to break down every barrier we have to feeling. In other words, we need to stop putting barriers around us. We need to allow the emotion that's coming from our environment to enter us. And if it enters us and we have not got any resonant emotion, in other words, another emotion that it reacts to, it'll just pass straight through us. We don't need any protection. We are completely protected in that place. Now, for the majority of us, we have a lot of these emotions, of course. So one of our emotions might be fear. So when this person comes along with their fear and starts talking about their fear, what happens? This fear comes out of them, and it resonates with our own fear. You could use the term vibrate if you want. It's an emotion that we're feeling, that we have fear, they have fear. Now the two of those things are in harmony with each other. And so now that fear will probably pass through me. And because I've yet to release fear within myself, it'll stop within me. It'll settle inside of me as a result. Now, there might be another person who has no fear at all, but he will talk about a subject that makes you afraid. So, for instance, if I talk about a subject of earth changes, things that might happen in your location this year that will cause a major upheaval in your life, a lot of people then go, he's making me afraid. I'm not making you afraid. I'm not afraid of that subject. And so therefore I'm not making you afraid. A lot of times I speak of spirits. Like last week on Sunday, I was told that when I speak of spirits, I'm very, very negative. Well, I don't feel negative. I feel the truth is very, very important. Right? So I don't feel negative about talking about spirits. But if you do, then there's something going on inside of you see. There's got to be something resonant or something inside of you that causes you to be afraid of that discussion. Fear is the biggest thing that creates an openness in us to receiving the projections of another. So your question, getting back to your question, was can somebody else infect you with their emotion and cause your state to worsen? Yes, they can. But only if I have an openness to receiving it from them. Now, in New Age circles, what you would do is you'd surround yourself with a protective barrier to not receive it. Or what you would often do is leave the person who's like that. Whereas I sort of see it very differently. I sort of see that person has been a law of attraction event brought to me by my own soul to confront an issue in my soul that's out of harmony with love, truth or humility. Does that make sense?
Can it be the same condition with if it's a medical condition? If someone is sick and I get contaminated, does that have to do with emotions also?
Well, much sickness, as I've already been pointing out, is caused by spirit influence. So if I have an openness to certain things, and there's spirits that are around these people who are also willing to project their feelings at me, then certainly I can even get sick from that infection, if you like, of a spirit. But again, I would need to look at what is the cause. And the cause is the feeling within me that needs to come out. Does that make sense? If I protect myself from the situation, I won't find the feeling. I need to allow the situation to occur and see what the feeling is. When I see what the feeling is, I can feel the feeling. When I feel the feeling, I can release the emotion that causes the attraction in the first place. And now I am automatically protected because I am no longer open to that projection. Yeah? And this is where I feel most New Age philosophy and also many other spiritual movements on the planet neglect the personal responsibility of our own condition. They blame the external rather than looking first at something within me that attracted the external. Do you understand? This is very, very important to understand. If we are humble, we won't do that. We will look at ourselves first, not the external. We will see ourselves first. Yeah? Can you just turn the mic around to Anna and then come down to the front?